Hello, my name is Kelly Hillier, and I'm the 8th grade English teacher at CMS on the Blizzard team. I'm so glad that you're watching this video to get more information about the 8th grade DC New York trip. You are most likely watching this video because you weren't able to make the information presentation on September 26th, or you attended the meeting and just want to review some key points again. Because of that, I want to give you as much information as you need in order to help make your decision. The financial decision may rest on your shoulders as parents, but we also want to include the student in the decision of whether they want to go on a trip like this. It would be awesome if your child watches this video with you. So if you need to pause the video to go get them, that would be great. There are a lot of moving parts to know and understand with large group travel, and I will do my best to cover all of those in a timely manner. While this video may be long, it is highly suggested to watch the video all the way through so you and your child are fully informed of when, where, and how the registration process works, how the confirmed and waitlisted student process works, how the payment plan works, student behavior expectations prior to and while on the trip works, and the payment protection plan. We've experienced a lot of uncertainty the past 4 years, but we've also learned how to navigate a worldwide pandemic. There have been countless times we've strengthened our flexibility muscle and have learned to go with the flow. I don't want to seem insensitive to the fact that to some extent, we are still somewhat navigating COVID and its variants. I think we now live in a world where there will always be some sort of travel restrictions, sometimes less stringent and sometimes more, depending on the rise and fall of medical cases. The trip takes a year to plan, so that requires me to plan this far ahead. Between now and June, restrictions can change to be more strict, and then less strict, and then back again. Just know that I, along with my tour company, watch this very closely, and we will let parents know if something comes up. I think we are on the other side, though, of knowing how to live, travel, work, and play within a world of COVID. If you've had an older child participate in this trip in the past, it is still advised to listen to this presentation all the way through because there are several details that are specific to this current year's trip, especially if your child went during the pre-COVID days. The first 5 years running the trip was solely a 5-day DC trip. Then years 6 and 7, we added New York, which was awesome to be able to see 2 major cities in one trip. Years 8 and 9 were canceled due to COVID. Year 10 was exclusively DC because of the continued COVID restrictions for student travel in the New York area. This last year, year 11, we added New York back in on the itinerary, and it was a blast getting back to the Big Apple. And of course, year 12, this year, we are going to DC and New York. We fly into DC and fly home from New York, and we use coach buses for ground transportation. Each bus holds 50 students and 4 chaperones. Normally, we have 100 spots for the trip. This year, we're going to start with 50 student spots, and consideration will be given if our numbers reach a second bus. Based on the number of emails I've had with parents and the conversations I've had with kids, it sounds like we do have a lot of student interest. Ever since year 1, we've always sold out the trip. As we've seen over the past 3 years, life can have a lot of ebbs and flows, lots of changes, and so too does planning for group travel. The key to this process is flexibility, and for you to know that I'm doing my best to plan an amazing trip in the safest way possible. I've been the trip coordinator since year 1, so I've acquired solid experience to bring large groups to 2 major cities, and I've built a track record that's consistent for having successful trips. The chaperones for the trip are CMS teachers and staff. A lot of parents ask if they can chaperone the trip. And while we appreciate the parent interest, the chaperones for the trip are teachers and staff only. We absolutely love spending time with 8th graders, and it gives an opportunity for your child to travel with their classmates, which is a fun opportunity for them to grow and mature in a new experience, especially if they've never traveled without you before. From the moment we depart, the chaperone staff turns into mama and papa bears and protect, watch, and guide your child as if they were their own. Several of the chaperones are parents themselves, and the parental or teacher sense to protect just naturally kicks in. It is important to know that this trip is fully supported by our school board, our principal, Mr. Bakke, and our superintendent, but it is not a school-sponsored or sanctioned trip. The trip is sponsored by our tour company, School Tours of America. The district does not assume any liability for the trip. Our district has been wonderful at supporting our efforts and enjoy seeing this opportunity given to students. Any questions should be directed to me as the trip coordinator. So if a student is canceled from the trip due to negative behavior or infractions, I'm the one that makes that decision, not our deans or principal. There are several student tour companies out there, and I work with one of the best, School Tours of America. There are several reasons why I love this company. The company was started by a geography teacher. Safety is truly their number one priority. Very kind and respectful staff. The itinerary is not a cookie cutter itinerary. We sit down and customize it for about 2 to 3 hours, planning every turn of the trip. They assist our group 24/7. So if we get a flight delay or if our flight gets canceled and we are not in Minneapolis, we have assistance with our group all of the time. And then nighttime security, we have that at the hotels to ensure our group is safe, and then top-notch customer service to help with every question that parents or I have as the trip coordinator. At this point, your child or you as a parent may be on the fence about whether they want to go on this trip or not. So I think it's important to think about why your child will want to go on this. The type of students that go on this trip are ones that desire to learn more about our nation. They have an interest in exploring or traveling. They may have military connections in your family and want to see places and monuments that honor those family members that served. They may want a future job with the government, politics, or on Wall Street. They're excited to travel with their classmates, and they're flexible traveling in a large group. What can a student expect from this trip? Well, they're going to expect an unforgettable learning experience or adventure. They're going to laugh, learn, and experience and see and do a lot. They're going to be safe and well cared for. We are going to follow any COVID requirements in regards to masking. They are going to return home extremely exhausted. It's going to be fast-paced and high energy. Please note that if they are thinking this is more like a vacation where they can sit by the pool, go shopping for a couple of hours, or hang out at the hotel doing nothing, this may not be the trip for them because we are out and about touring all day. What does a typical day look like? Great question. We are up early in the morning and we stay out all day and we get back to the hotel late at night. We do lots and lots of walking. Usually a teacher or chaperone wears a Fitbit or Apple Watch to keep track of our daily steps. And when added up at the end, it's usually 30 to 35 miles over the course of 5 days. We have coach buses that bring us to and fro, but we still do a lot of walking when we're off of that bus. If walking long distances is something your child hates to do, this might not be the trip for them either. The weather is usually very hot and humid in June in DC and New York, 80s and 90s. We also tour rain or shine. So basically the weather doesn't stop us. We are there to see as much as we can see. We've been very fortunate that we have only had 1 year with downpour type rain while we're traveling. They are going to have loads of fun, lots of laughs, and great opportunities to meet new friends and have fun with old friends. The trip is very informative with lots to learn and see. So it does take an educational spin on the trip. There are several very knowledgeable people on the trip that our students get to learn from. And we are definitely on the move all the time. We squeeze as much as we can in every day because this trip is a rather large investment for families. So our itinerary is planned to match that investment. If your child needs an 11 to 13 hour block of sleep each night, this may not be the trip for them either. Some additional questions to consider before making this decision are, why do I want to go on this trip? What do I want to get out of this trip? What monuments, sites, memorials do I really want to see? What are my concerns or fears or worries? And what is the difference between a trip and a vacation? In the past 11 years, we've had a few students go on this trip for the wrong reasons, whether their parent was really pushing them to go and the child really didn't want to go, or the child had a different idea of what this trip entailed because they didn't hear this part of the presentation. Regardless of what the reason is, when a child goes on the trip for other reasons than listed above, it can definitely impact the quality and enjoyment of the trip for not only them, but others around them. So it is really important to have a discussion with your child about why they want to go on this trip. I strongly encourage you to dive in a little deeper if their reason is just because my friends are going or everybody else is going. When I coordinate this trip, the decisions made are really from the perspective of what's good for the group. We do consider individual needs and challenges, of course, but we also need to think globally what is best for moving a large group of students through two big cities. I also think it's important that students know there are certain expectations of behavior while on the trip. Prior to the trip, students will also want to display positive actions in and out of school as well, because that may impact their ability to go on the trip. I'm a strong believer that having agreements in place prevents disagreements. Transparency is very important to me, and I think parents and students appreciate that as well. Because it is not a school-sponsored trip, as trip coordinator, I do have the right to cancel a student's participation depending on the severity of the situation. Vandalism, inappropriate or illegal type behavior prior to the trip, inside or outside of school, and while on the trip is not tolerated or accepted. A decision to remove a student from the trip is never a rash or quick decision. A lot of thought, conversation, and decision making takes place together with the student, the parent, and me. Behavior on the trip is very important, but it is also important during the school year. We never expect middle school students to be perfect when it comes to behavior. We know that they're going to make mistakes, but having expectations and policies set in place can also help shape student choice and decisions they make prior to the trip. I strongly believe that because these expectations are in place and are transparent, this is one of the reasons we have had such awesome and successful CMS trips over the past decade. We have amazing CMS students who make positive choices every day and represent CMS well. Because we want the trip to be enjoyable for all people, those are the type of students that we want to go on this trip. So the expectations of the trip are as follows. Students help make the trip successful with their speech and their actions. Each student will conduct themselves in a mature, positive manner. The trip will be exciting, safe, and fun for all. It's a great opportunity to travel without parents, connect with friends, and make new ones. Students will positively represent Century, Lakeville, and Minnesota, and students will sign 2 different behavior contracts after they are confirmed for the trip. If a student is given in-school suspension, ISS, or has had 2 documented behavior interventions, the student, parent, and I will have a meeting to discuss a positive behavior plan in regards to the trip and steps that the student can do to make them have better choices and decisions. A positive plan will be set in place to move forward, and the desire at this point would be that the student, the teacher, and the parents still want the student to participate in the trip. If a student has a second ISS violation and/or 3 or more documented behavior interventions, the student will be canceled from the trip. At any time during the school year, September to June, if a student is given out-of-school suspension, OSS, for a behavior violation at CMS, the student will be canceled from the trip right away. The guidelines are set in place because if a student consistently exhibits negative behavior while here at school, in a familiar surrounding, it is extremely risky to have a student on the trip making those same decisions, those same behaviors in several new and unfamiliar public places, events, and activities that not only involve their safety, but the safety of everyone around them. If a student is removed from the trip due to behavior violation at any time from September to June, the financial penalty for cancellation will follow the same guidelines under SDA's terms and conditions. If there are issues of behavior while on the trip, we follow a 4-step format. The first step is the student is given a warning in regards to the behavior and also has a conversation with a chaperone as to how we can make that change in the behavior to be more positive. Usually the problem is handled right there. If it continues, the behavior continues, then we go to step 2, and that involves a parent phone call home, where the parent, myself, and the student are all on the phone at the same time having a conversation about how we can positively end this trip and have a good time moving forward, making positive choices. If the behavior continues from there, the negative behavior, then step 3 involves the student having a personal chaperone, which basically means that they would need to stay within 5 to 6 feet of a chaperone for a block of time. Maybe it's 4 or 5 hours. And that is something that students do not want to do. And then if it gets to be where the behavior has not changed after those 3 steps, a flight home would be implemented. And this would be at the parent's expense. So we can't have a chaperone leave the group and fly home with the student. The parent would have to fly out to meet our group and then fly home with their child. So there's a huge expense on the parent's side of things. I will tell you, we have some great, amazing Century students. And usually if we have any behavior issues on the trip, it usually stops at steps 1 or 2, and we don't have to go any further. So probably the kids that are listening to this and the parents are wondering what they do in Washington, D.C. The Washington, D.C. area packs a punch with all that it has to offer. We sandwich a lot in 3 days, and we want the itinerary to match the value of your investment. So we are up early sightseeing all day and returning back to the hotel late. Some of the 8th grade favorites in DC are the Potomac dinner and dance cruise. The kids get all dressed up and we go on a yacht. And we have dinner on the yacht as well as dance the night away under the stars. Another one of their favorites is the Holocaust Memorial Museum, Arlington Cemetery, the Naval Academy, and then all the monuments and memorials that we see. This year we've added a MLB game with either the Orioles or the Nationals. New York is always a fan favorite with our 8th graders. It is definitely a great way to end the trip with all the sights, sounds, smells, and events that New York has to offer. We sandwich a lot in just 2 days. Some of the 8th graders' favorites are the Statue of Liberty, the Broadway play, 9/11 Memorial, and of course Times Square. The cost of the trip is directly tied to what is planned on the trip. The trip price is all-inclusive, and I am currently working on this year's itinerary, which is chock full of fantastic experiences. Depending on availability and or large group restrictions, the itinerary may change just a bit. Sometimes with a large group like ours, staggered entrances are required at certain locations, but rest assured, all CMS students will experience the same events. Please trust that I will make the best decisions so that your investment matches the itinerary experiences. If your child has a medical, physical, or emotional condition and you are unsure whether the trip is a good fit, please email me to set up a time for us to talk by phone or in person. It is always best to err on the side of caution versus assuming that your child will be fine and then you just register them without having our conversation. Now, let's get down to the trip details, which I'm sure that you're waiting for. The trip dates are June 12th through the 16th, which is a Wednesday through Sunday. We have kind of something interesting this year. We've always ended school on a Thursday every year, but this year we get out of school on Friday, June 7th. So students will actually have a couple days to relax and pack before their departure. The cost of the trip is $2,495, all inclusive. The only thing that your child needs to bring money for is souvenirs. This year, the Payment Protection Plan, or known as PPP, will be optional. So the price of the trip does not include the PPP of $309. The flights, airlines are yet to be determined. We always try to fly out of Terminal 2 Southwest Airlines for a variety of reasons: smaller airports, friendly staff working with students, free luggage. If we fly on Delta, American, or United, baggage fees may apply if students choose to check a bag. Unfortunately, if your child has a frequent flyer number or miles they can use on the airline we are flying on, unfortunately, they won't be able to use those because they're flying on a group priced ticket. That is not one of my policies. That is a policy from the airline. You can see on the screen of what all-inclusive means. It includes every single thing that they would need for the trip. The only thing they would need to bring money for is souvenirs. PPP, what is that? It's the Payment Protection Plan. Each year, we learn new and different things to help improve the experience for the following year's trip. Prior to COVID, the PPP was always optional for parents. During the height of COVID, the PPP was added to the total price of the trip to ensure everyone's peace of mind, and all parents were glad about that. At this point, and all that we know about COVID, we are putting the decision back in the hands of families on whether they want to purchase the PPP or not. With that said, I would highly encourage all families to consider purchasing the PPP because it will reduce your stress about potential or unforeseen events: injuries, broken legs, funeral in the family, student is sick with COVID 3 days prior to departure, their sports team made it into the championship, or maybe they just don't want to go anymore. And it gives you the financial peace of mind that your child can cancel up to the day of departure and you can get all your money back minus the PPP amount. My intention is not to make it sound like a sales pitch, but only as helpful advice, because I've seen families lose significant money when they've decided to roll the dice and not get the PPP and something unexpected came up. Think of the protection plans that you have on your house, your car, your property, etc. Most of us don't want to buy the protection plan until we actually need it. The PPP is $309 and is not included in the total price of the trip. As a family, you will need to decide if it is something that you want to purchase at the time of registration. COVID looks very different than it did in 2020 and 2021, but as of today, here is how we will work with COVID regarding this trip. If your child is feeling sick and or has COVID symptoms within 1 week prior to departure, the student should take a COVID test. Participants should let me know if they test positive. SDA will continue to update me if there are any added restrictions for venues, restaurants, and events. Last year, we had no COVID restrictions whatsoever. If the student is sick, has symptoms, and or tests positive for COVID, the student will not be able to go on the trip for obvious reasons because we're in close proximity with other students and staff. If the family purchased the PPP, the family would get all of their money back minus the PPP amount of $309. I and School Tours of America are not requiring students to be vaccinated in order to go on this trip. And last year, again, we had no issues with COVID prior to the trip, during the trip, or after the trip. 2 weeks prior to departure, the trip will follow and adhere to any government, airline, restaurant, venue, or destination COVID masking requirements. Decisions made for and on the trip are made for the good of the group when it comes to everyone's safety. Last year, we did have a potential of a masking for air quality and not for anything COVID related. And it was interesting, the day that we flew out, Washington, D.C.'s air quality and New York's air quality really improved where we didn't have to wear masks. And while we were out on the East Coast, the air quality back here in Minnesota was actually poor. And then when we flew home from New York, it was still good air quality. And when we landed in Minneapolis, it was better. So it was almost like when we flew out, we missed all of that air quality issue. If you want to read School Tour of America's specific protocols for student travel, scan the QR code on the screen and it will take you to their website. This will walk you through their trip care protocols if you want to know more. As we all know, protocols were changing almost on a daily basis in the height of COVID, but now we seem to have some common approaches with how to travel with COVID protocol in mind. This is how we travel when we are in DC. Nice luxury coach buses that will be our home away from home. The bus drivers are incredibly talented, getting us safely from point A to point B. We will travel by coach bus from DC to New York. Once we are in New York, we travel mostly on foot because we stay right in the heart of downtown Manhattan. We won't see the coach buses until we head back to the airport the following day. The students get fed very well on this trip. Students can pack snacks for the trip if they want to. All of our restaurants are close to our events. They are quality, student-friendly locations. Our restaurants can accommodate dietary and allergic restrictions. Breakfast is at the hotel and consists of a buffet with a ton of things: waffles, pancakes, sausage, bacon, fruit, cereal, yogurt, toast. It's delicious. For lunch, we usually go to a food court location, somewhat similar to like the Mall of America food court, where students have lots of choices. Before departing the bus for lunch, we will give them a $20 bill, cash, and they can spend it as they wish. If they don't eat $20 worth, they get to keep the remaining cash. For dinner, we usually sit down at a dine-in restaurant where students get an opportunity to eat and socialize. Our hotels that we stay at are clean, safe, beautiful, and usually positioned in a great spot right within the city, close to all of our activities. We pick hotels that are used to having student groups. There are 4 students to a room, and STA hires nighttime security for our hotel floors. All rooms will be quad occupancy. If your child wants to do a room with a different room configuration, like a triple or a double, there is an additional cost to this, as you can see on the screen. We don't have very many students that choose this option at all, but it is still an option. In January, students and parents will fill out several forms for the trip: medical, rooming, behavior, etc. Roommates will be organized from January to March. Once rooming groups are established, no changes can be made. With quad rooms, we all know middle school friendships sometimes encounter struggles and inconsistencies. When making rooming assignments, I always try to give students at least one of their requests. It is also important for everyone to feel included, though, on the trip. So when I coordinate room assignments, it is a bit of a chess match and somewhat challenging to have everyone feel comfortable. I try to make decisions that are best for all students. With that said, we are not in our hotel rooms very much at all. It is really only a place to lay our heads down at night. We get in late, get up early, and then we are off. Once students are at breakfast, on the bus, or at a site, they can hang out with whoever they want to within our CMS group. It is always my goal to make sure that each student has at least one person in their room that they've requested. If you want to do a double or a triple room, wait until you receive notification that your child is actually confirmed on the trip. The deadline to change to a double or triple room is by November 3rd. After November 3rd, double and triple room requests will not be allowed. All students will be put into a quad room. If you are planning a double or triple, make sure to talk with the other families prior to making those arrangements. In regards to the hotel, we have very firm guidelines in place to ensure everyone's safety. We've done this format for the past 11 years, and it works every single year without any glitches or problems. Every night we have a large group meeting in one of the hotel conference rooms to go over the day, give all the students important information and reminders about the next day. At no time will any other student enter your room for any reason at all, period. Rooms are off limits to any social gatherings. We will be checking your doors as chaperones. We will be making sure everybody has what they need, and then the students will close the door, lock the door, and then we put tape over the door and wish them a good night. Most of the kids kind of laugh when they hear this and say, well, taping our door, I can break out a tape. That's not the issue. That is true. What the tape signifies, though, is that the room has been checked. Everybody's good to go. They are ready to be tucked in for the night. And if they do break the seal, the tape makes a noise for the security guards to come and get one of the chaperones. The only time that the tape has ever been broken on any of the trips is if a student is sick or not feeling well, or there's something wrong. So most of the time when they're taped in, everything is all good, and it allows the chaperones to get some quick sleep as well. One of the things that you have to know is there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that chaperones do once students are all tucked in their rooms. And we generally only get about 4 hours for chaperones, 4 hours of sleep each night. So when we do hit our head on the pillow, we want to get as much quality, quick sleep as we can. And that tape ensures that we can do that. And then the wake up knock on their door and the call that they get in their room comes early. So we want to make sure that the students are getting quality sleep too. STA hires hotel security, and they stay on our floor from 10:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. And they do this to ensure that no other guests in the hotel are on our floor. And they also do this to ensure the student safety within our group. It keeps others off of our floor, and then also if there is a problem, they do wake up the chaperone to see if the child or student needs help. Traveling with a large group requires students to be positive and flexible. This is much different than traveling with a family of 4. It is truly an adventure. It's not everything's going to go perfectly, and that is part of the fun of traveling. We've got to be patient. We are traveling with a large group, and some things take a little bit longer. There is a difference between a trip and a vacation. Most families, when they do a small group of 4, maybe 5 kids going on a vacation, it's relaxed. It's do kind of what you want to do. And this is very different. This is a trip where it's scheduled an itinerary and things are on the move. The students will be well cared for during the trip. So food, hotel, transportation, health, and entertainment will all be taken care of for them. How to register. So right now you probably have in front of you a white envelope because you did scan the QR code so that you could view this particular video. And inside the envelope has an STA brochure. It has the registration letter. It also has step-by-step instructions on how to register, which will be helpful when you're ready to do that. And then if students or parents couldn't make the information meeting, you can pick up a white packet from Ms. Hillier, myself, or Ms. Goldberg on the hurricane side, and they can do that anytime after the presentation on the 26th. This is the pre-recorded YouTube video that you are currently watching, and you can definitely pause this at any time if you need to review any material. The registration window is from September 26th through midnight on October 5th. Registration is not first come, first serve. It stays open for 10 days, allowing families to discuss all the information and make the best decision. Once registration closes, if we have more than 50 students signed up, STA will conduct a random lottery for the 50 spots. Consideration will be given if the numbers reach a second bus, which means 100 students. If we have more than 100 students that are registered for the trip, there is still the lottery that will take place. Important thing to remember, registered doesn't mean confirmed. So we do need to wait to see what the numbers come in looking like and to see whether we need to have a randomized lottery. You have a couple different options on how much to pay at registration. Option 1 is just paying the registration fee amount, which is $99. This means that you are opting out of the PPP, or the Payment Protection Plan. The $99 goes towards the price of the trip. The second option is the registration fee of $99 and the PPP, which is a total of $408. So $99 plus the $309. This means that you are purchasing the Payment Protection Plan. The $99 goes towards the price of the trip. The third option is any amount higher than $408, which means you are putting more money towards the trip and also purchasing the PPP. The amount of the initial payment beyond $99 or $408 is really up to each individual family and their finances. If a lottery is conducted, it is not done at CMS. School Tours of America handles the randomized lottery process. Each student is given a number, and the numbers are randomized to fill all 50 spots for the trip or all 100 spots of the trip. The list of confirmed and waitlisted students will be given to each student by October 13th. Waitlisted students will know what number they are on the waitlist. All registered students will receive a letter in the mail around October 13th or 14th from School Tours of America advising them of their status. It is really a numbers game when it comes to registration. Students on the waitlist are put in order based on the lottery and will be cleared in that order if a spot opens up. Anyone that registers after the deadline of midnight on October 5th, they will automatically be placed on the waitlist. If your child is on the waitlist, STA will hold your deposit in case the student clears from the waitlist. If they never clear from the waitlist, the deposit is refunded back to you. If at any time you want to cancel your child from the waitlist, simply call School Tours of America, let them know your child is waitlisted and that you want them canceled from the trip. And then please email me this as well. It is recommended, though, that you keep your child's name on the waitlist because changes can open up between October and March. If a spot opens up for your child, you will be notified immediately. There are two options to make payments. Option 1 on the left is the easy payment option. This is the option that 99% of the families choose. Basically, a certain dollar amount is charged to your credit card per month until April. It is considered a slow drip to pay for the trip. The second option on the right is to send the payment in the mail with the payment stubs that STA mails out to you in the confirmation packet. You determine how much and how often you want to pay. There is a $6 service fee with this option. With either option, your child's account needs to be paid in full by April 3rd, 2024. A lot of people ask, if my child's on the wait list, do I continue to make payments? That really is up to you. Most families with kids on the wait list will simply pay the initial amount that they paid at registration and then they wait. The only problem or maybe concern of that option is if something clears, let's say March 25th, you would need to pay the entire amount of that trip all within a week by April 3rd. So it really depends on your family's finances. If your child's on a wait list and you keep paying for the trip all the way through, and by the end of March, they never clear from the trip, you get all of your money back. Should you not choose to do the easy monthly pay option, so you choose to mail in the payment, if you want to do the slow drip method, here is a suggested payment plan to spread out the payments. You will register your child online. It takes about 3 to 4 minutes and it is very easy. I will show you how to do this next. You will not bring any money to school. Payments are all made directly to School Tours of America. Remember, this is not a school-sponsored trip. In your packet, light green sheet are step-by-step instructions. So watching on the screen will help familiarize you with what it looks like. You'll go to www.schooltoursofamerica.com. The website looks like this. You will click on top where it says register. The trip number is A726. The departure date is June 12th, 2024. It is very important that you put this information in correctly so the right trip auto-populates. One year we had somebody put in the wrong number. A trip did come up, but it was a school in California. So we want to make sure that you are typing in the correct information. After you've done that, the registration type is student. You will type in the student's full legal name first, middle, and last. Be sure to do this correctly, as this is what will show on all of their documents. The other way to check that you've typed this all incorrectly into the system correctly is if you look at the school name and see Century Middle School, you'll know that you're in the right trip. Then you'll type in the traveler, so that's the student's mailing address, the student's cell phone number, if they have one, the student's email address, their date of birth, and their gender. Remember, this information is for the student, so this is not the parent. You'll get a chance to do that in a second. This is a very important step when you get to the merchandise section. Your child will get a Century customized t-shirt for the trip that is included in the price of the trip. This is not that t-shirt. STA sells t-shirts as well, so it will be important for you to keep the quantity at 0 for this step. Otherwise, you will be charged $20 for the School Tours of America t-shirt, unless, of course, your child wants that t-shirt. We will do sizing for our Century t-shirts later in January. The next step is the parent guardian information. You will fill in relationship to the traveler, parent first name, middle name, and last name, mailing address, your cell phone number, and email address. It is very important to include an accurate email and one that you check regularly. Unfortunately, you can't put 2 parents in on this step. So if there is a dual household, you will need to decide who will be the main point of contact. Then read through the terms and conditions, and you're going to either click on agree to the terms and conditions if you are accepting the payment protection plan of $309, or you will click on decline if you're not wanting the payment protection plan. You will not be able to add the PPP later, so this is important to make this decision at the time of registration. The trip pricing then will populate. You'll enter the payment amount, so the minimum is $99 without the PPP, or $408 with the PPP. You can always do more than $408 if you would like. Then you would either click on the Easy Pay option or the mail-in option with a $6 processing fee. The next screen is the billing information. You will fill in first, middle, and last name, billing address, cell phone number, email address, and credit card information with the CVV code and expiration date. Unfortunately, the system doesn't allow 2 separate forms of payment to be entered. So if you have a dual household, both parents will need to agree what credit card will be entered and how they will do financial transactions with one another. Once you click Submit, you will see a screen that looks like this. It will say, "Thank you for registering with School Tours of America." You can print this for your records if you would like. Remember, registered doesn't mean confirmed. We may still have to do a lottery, and then you'll know if your child is actually confirmed on the trip. Will there be a fundraiser? Great question. I realize the price of the trip is a rather large investment, and a fundraiser is a great opportunity to help offset the cost of the trip. Coordinating this trip and teaching full-time takes much of my time, so I personally do not coordinate any fundraising. It is all parent-initiated and driven. If parents decide to do a fundraiser, I can certainly help by emailing all parents with the information, the dates, the times, the reminders, etc. But all the planning of the actual fundraiser from start to finish needs to be done by parents. We have done all these fundraisers that are on the screen in the past. The butter braids seem to be the most lucrative and beneficial to students' bottom line account. They can earn actually up to 40% back from their sales, but parents can coordinate any fundraiser they would like. If or when I have a parent email me that they're interested in spearheading a fundraiser, I will email the entire group that person's email address, and then they will connect from there. Last year, parents organized 2 fundraisers, one in late November and one in spring. If I don't hear from any parents that are wanting to organize it, then there will not be a fundraiser. Some people ask if there is a scholarship available for students to be able to go on this trip, and whether there's some way of offering some financial help or support. There isn't a specific fund account set up for financial assistance. There have been a few times that we've had generous donors come forward and have given money to be spent for the good of the group, but rarely does it pay for an entire student's trip. If you are in need of financial assistance, I would suggest reaching out to local organizations, maybe the VFW, banks, or businesses, to see if they will donate. Sometimes parents, your company, may actually match funds for student experiences like this. And we also have a lot of great local Lakeville businesses that like to support student experiences. CMS has our own travel website connected with STA. The link is listed on the screen, and it is also on the bottom of the registration letter in your envelope. You can also scan the QR code on the screen to get you there as well. This site will house all of our documents, videos, frequently asked questions for both parents and students, and all necessary information that you need to know. In addition to my email communication that goes out to all parents, this site can be a great place to refer to as well. So what's next? If your child is confirmed on the trip, they will receive a packet full of forms in January. We ask that the parent and the child fill out the forms together and thoroughly, and then return them to me by the date listed on the forms. I will also email the forms out electronically too. Please mark your calendars. We will have one last mandatory meeting on Tuesday, May 28th. This will be a mandatory meeting for all student travelers and at least one parent to attend. We will be handing out all travel documents and day of travel procedures. So before I conclude tonight, I just want to ask you to email me if you have any specific questions. Now that you've watched this video, my email is on the screen, and I'm here to help with any questions that you may have or concerns. I hope you found that this recorded presentation was helpful, and it allows for you and your child to talk about this and see if it is a good fit for your family's finances and the interest of your child. After students are registered and confirmed, mass emails about this trip will only be sent to families that are registered or waitlisted. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to email me. I am here to help, and thanks for watching.